I'm the Raging Redhead Cam Stewart from Hot Roster today, and guess what? It's Friday. I love Fridays, and that means the Hot Roster cards are set for Week 6 in the NFL, and we're going to focus in on their Pro Bowl card, which features a lot of juicy matchups. First, two heavyweights doing battle as Russell Wilson from Seattle faces off against Aaron Rodgers of the Packers. Now, history favors Rodgers this week. He has 7 touchdowns to no interceptions and 5 meetings against the boys from Dallas. Plus, he'll be facing them on his turf at Lambeau, where his passer rating, it's an astronomical 109.2. The problem is, the Pack offense has looked a little bit off this year, with Rodgers failing to hit the 300-yard passing mark all season long. That's why I'm all over Russell Wilson. He basically sprained his left and right ankles and then his left knee, but the Seahawks are coming off the bye week, which gave him time to rest up and prepare for his date with the Atlanta Falcons, and they've squandered the most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Plus, Coach Pete Carroll hinted that we'll see Wilson use his legs more now that he's at 100% full strength. So I expect Wilson to have a huge game against the Falcons and top Aaron Rodgers. The next head-to-head duel I'm looking at on the card is a set of quarterbacks from the AFC South as the Colts' Andrew Luck goes up against Marcus Mariota of the Titans. Earlier on in the week, we talked about the upside of Mariota. You see, the great thing about him is his legs. They're his most dangerous weapon, and last week they were on full display when he tacked on 60 yards and a score rushing while also tossing 3 touchdowns. This kid could be downright electric. Add to that fact, Tennessee has a date with the Cleveland Brownies. Won't. They give up 300 yards passing and allow more than 100 yards rushing a week. So what's not to love about Marcus Mariota? On the other side, though, Andrew Luck is no slouch himself. Already this season, the Stanford product has 3 games with 300-plus yards passing. That yardage, along with 10 touchdown passes he's netted, place him within the top 5 in each of those categories. My only concern for Luck, he's facing off against the Houston Texans, and even without J.J. Watt, they've allowed only 11.84 fantasy points to quarterbacks. Pass on Luck. I'm avoiding the tough matchup for Luck, pressing down on Marcus Mariota, plus I get a point advantage. Sign me up with the Tennessee Titans quarterback. One of the wide receiver matchups pits the Chiefs' star wideout Jeremy Maclin versus Drew Brees' go-to guy in Brandon Cooks. Yesterday, I told you the good, the bad, and the ugly with Jeremy Maclin. The good is his opponent this week, the Oakland Raiders. Transform top wideouts into 100-yard beasts. These guys have been awful, including Brandon Cooks, who torched Oakland for a $143 and a touchdown. The bad and the ugly for Maclin lies with the guy tossing him the pigskin, Alex Smith. Smith has only 3 career 300-yard passing games as a member of the Chefs, and in 50 starts, that's a 6% rate. Brutal. Meanwhile, despite Cooks dropping off since that Week 1 explosion against the Raiders, he's combined for a measly 11.8 fantasy points over his last 3 starts. You have to like his chances this week against the Carolina Panthers, though. The once formidable Panthers are now like pussycats. Their D has fallen off, and over the last 2 weeks, they've allowed the 2nd most fantasy points to wide receivers. You gotta think that Drew Brees is gonna exploit that with his guy Cooks. He could be the big factor this week. So despite Maclin's matchup being just as appetizing as cookies, I'm taking Cooks and Drew Brees. We trust. The only greater or less than pick you have on the card is with the Patriots' James White. He's projected to tally 7 fantasy points in standard leagues, and honestly, my friends, with everyone's favorite Patriot Tom Brady back in the fold, it appears James White might have another decent day against the Bungles. Last week, he totaled 83 yards on the ground and even outsnapped fellow running back LeGarrette Blount 38-31. While Blount remained limited in practice throughout the week, White's role is only going to increase with Brady, and the Bengals have allowed 213 receiving yards to running backs and 11 touchdowns through the air. I like James White to get more than 7 points. Last but not least, Hot Roster features a couple of kicking matchups, because come on, people, let's get serious. Kickers are people too. One of the battles features Steelers kicker Chris Boswell and the Panthers' Graham Gano. The problem with Boswell, although he hasn't been a disappointment to his team, he's been one for fantasy owners, as he hasn't been afforded too many opportunities to kick field goals because the Steelers have scored so many touchdowns in the red zone. Instead, most of his work has been relegated to kicking extra points, so it's tougher to love him in a matchup. Plus, Gano, he's going to be playing within the confines of the Superdome in New Orleans, and he has a 50-yarder to boot this season. I wouldn't be surprised if he tacks on another this week in the Superdome, so I'm going with the boot from Gano over that of Boswell's. So that's it for now, but make sure you check out me and my buddy Gary and Thorne, and trust me, this guy is an encyclopedia on Hot Roster today. We're going to have more tips for you every weekday at 4:30 Eastern, only on the Fantasy Sports Network. And hey, if you haven't already done it, go to HotRoster.com and check it out. Download the app, give it a try. It's like no other fantasy sports game you've played. For Hot Roster now, I'm Cam Stewart. See you on the virtual gridiron.